Let's take a look at three built-in directives, ngIf, ngFor, and ngSwitch. These are all used to add elements to the DOM or to keep elements off of the DOM. Here we have a paragraph, and we're specifying the ngIf directive. Notice that it has an asterisk in front of it. This is an important part of the syntax, and it shows that this directive is working with HTML5 templates. So this paragraph will either get added to the DOM or not. We're setting ngIf to an expression false. Will this paragraph be added to the DOM? No. When we use ngIf, the Angular compiler is going to evaluate its expression. If it results in false, it won't be added to the DOM. So for this code, let's assume that showName is true in the component. ShowName can be a public or a private property on the component. We're setting ngIf equal to showName. What shows in the browser? We get John Glenn. So the Angular compiler evaluates showName, and it is true in the component. So the paragraph gets added to the DOM. Again, let's assume that showName is true in the component, but our syntax is a little bit different in our ngIf. We specify showName semicolon else block. And below this paragraph, we have an ng template, and it has a template reference variable of pound else block. What shows in the browser? We get John Glenn. So because showName evaluated to true, it went ahead and used this string John Glenn right here. And the else block was ignored. But now let's assume that showName is false in the component, and the template remains the same, only showName is false. What shows in the browser? Name hidden. So because showName was false, our else block became activated, and this paragraph was added with name hidden as the text. So just remember, when you're working with these blocks in the ngIf statement, you need to be using these template reference variables, and it's preferred that you use an ng-template as the tag name. Let's look at another ngIf example, and we'll assume that showName is true in the component. We're setting ngIf equal to showName, semicolon, then block, semicolon, else block. And our else block is the same, but we added this then block to an ng template. What shows in the browser? John Glenn. So with this then syntax here, if showName evaluates to true, then block will become activated. And that's how we get John Glenn. Let's take a look at ngFor now. Again, we need the asterisk in front of ngFor, and we set it to let p of positions. And within this div, we have a paragraph that shows the p.title. What shows in the browser? We get CEO, CFO, and CTO. So this is a for loop. And we say let p, that's a way of declaring variables, but we can do it right here in the ngFor syntax. This is not a template reference variable. It's often referred to as a template input variable. There's no pound symbol before the p, and it doesn't reference a DOM element. It references one of the elements of positions, which is a component property. So it'll loop through all the positions, printing out each title. And there's a special syntax we can use. In our ngFor now, we're setting it to let p of positions, semicolon, index as I. And we'll show I next to the title right here. What shows in the browser? CEO 0, CFO 1, CTO 2. So this is a special syntax that lets us get access to the index of the for loop. We just have to alias the index to some variable. In this case, we're using the variable I. And also notice that the index is 0-based. And look at this ngFor loop. Let p of positions, semicolon, first as f. And we'll show f next to the title. What shows in the browser? CEO true, CFO false, CTO false. So this lets us know if we're working with the first element of the array. F will be true. And this is probably a lot more useful used in an ngIf statement. But if you need any kind of special display or processing for the first element, this is how you access it. You alias first as f or some other variable. And if there's a first, there's probably a last. Let p of positions, last as LST, and we print out LST. What shows in the browser? CEO false, CFO false, CTO true. So the last element is true. Now we're setting ngFor equal to let P of positions even as E, and we'll print out E next to the title. What shows in the browser? CEO true, CFO false, and CTO true. So even evaluates to true if the index value is even. So 0 is considered even, and 1 is false, and so on. And this is used mainly to change your styling for odd or even rows. And if there's an even, there's probably an odd as O. What shows in the browser? CEO false, CFO true, and CTO false. So that's just the opposite of even. Let's take a look at ngSwitch now. We have a div, and we're specifying ngSwitch within square braces. So notice we don't need the asterisk here, but we do use the asterisk on the ngSwitch case directives. So for ngSwitch, we set that to an expression. In this case, the expression is positions.length. And for each case of our switch statement, we set asterisk ngSwitch case equal to the value we want to check. What shows in the browser? 3 spelled out. So because there are 3 items in positions, this is the element that gets added to the DOM. Now let's perform an ngSwitch on positions.length plus 1. And we'll also add an asterisk ngSwitch default. What shows in the browser? Default. So ngSwitch evaluated to 4, and our catch-all is our ngSwitch default directive. That's why default shows. So that's all we have for these built-in directives. In the next video, we'll take a look at two-way data binding.